And as we went on, it started to become fairly obvious that we really didn't have any good criteria to be able to measure the financial results against. Is it a good expenditure? Is it not a good expenditure? Is it going to pay itself back? Is it not going to pay itself back? So we did a lot of work in the systemic areas as far as the accounting system and how you maybe look at things and how you group expenses and costs to be able to make them more meaningful. But then, and I suppose I was the agitator for this, I spent 40 years of my life running businesses, and this is a tool that we use in every one of them, and it's really a financial planning tool to get yourself kind of a roadmap and some rules as to how you make financial decisions and knowing when you make a good one and make a bad one. So that's what this is all about. And we put together this workshop then, which is really the underlying reason for it is the financial, the ability to analyze and evaluate your finances. So it's really a process for management to think about what the future is going to look like, rather than look back. The numbers, when you get them, really just tell you what you did. They don't give you any guidance for what's going to happen in the future. This is really helping you decide what you want to do in the future. If you do it, and if you're consistently doing it, it helps to build a consensus on where you want to go, what you want to do, and how you want to do it. And when you get down to the end of it and get all the details, it gives you a basis for decision making. So it gives you some written direction as to making financial decisions. Should I make this one? Should I make that one? If I have a choice, this process helps you sort out which choice you choose. And the other thing it does for you is it allows management and Richard and his staff to resolve conflicts. When conflicts come up, if you have a well-done plan and a well-done financial structure, you can go to that plan and resolve the conflict without having he said, she said, or however you want to look at doing it. So it really creates a bit of stability as well. So the way we put this thing together was in a two-part session. I don't imagine we'll get much beyond part one today, and you can decide at the end whether you want to do more or whether you don't. The real first part of it is to create a vision. So in a business, it's called a mission statement. In a nonprofit or an organization, it's also called a mission statement. Yeah, and it's really, where are we going? What do we want to be when we go out, however you want to say it? It's really pointing in a direction that says, this is where we want to be in 10 or 15 or 20 years, and we're going to spend our money the best we can to get there, because we don't want to go over here. So and you've heard all this stuff before, there's vision, there's goals, there's objectives and strategies and tactics and actions, and we'll go into that a little bit, but not a lot. We don't need to worry about all those details. The two things that are important to hone in on what you do want to do is to create a set of attributes. And an attribute is a characteristic of a person or an organization or a thing that you want to nurture. It's something that you like, that you want to get more of. Boundaries are things that you don't want any part of. You don't want to cross those. You don't want to deal with them. You want to make sure that you're not spending money in areas where there's boundaries that you don't want there. And then once you establish the the attributes and the boundaries, then it's simply a matter of putting together a vision statement, because when you take the positives up here and the negatives down here and boil it down, you end up with, that's where you want to go. And then the second part of it is taking that simple statement, which is 40, 50 words, something like that, and then breaking it down into a detailed plan. So if your vision is, I want to get to Chicago, then the detailed plan is how I'm going to get there, when I'm going to get there, what's it going to cost me, when's it going to happen, who's going to do it. It's all the details of how it happens. So this part is really something that you guys ought to set as the board and say, we're going to Chicago. This part down here is what you task Richard and his organization with, that says, you can tell me the details on how you're going to get there. You're going to drive, you're going to hitchhike, you're going to take a train, you're going to take a bus, you're going to fly. So that's all the details down here. And then once a year, management brings you this set down here, and you measure it against what you did up here to see whether we're going to Chicago or whether we're really heading for the beach in California. So that's kind of the whys and the wherefores about doing it. So it all starts with a vision, and like you said, if you're in a business, that's a mission statement, same thing. Then you get your attributes and boundaries, and then you get into goals and strategies and objectives, and finally tactics and actions. So the vision is really your statement of what the future looks like. So in here, as you see as we go through, I chose to call it FCS 2038. 20 years from now, what's this place going to look like? What do you want it to look like? What are the attributes you want it to have? What are the things you do not want it to have? Which are the boundaries? Then you get into, so that's a 10 to 20 year kind of statement. You look at it typically every 5 years to see if things change. You get into goals are 1 to 5 year things, strategy. So a goal is what you want to accomplish. The strategy is how you're going to do it. And then the objectives are the measurable things you give to people and the tactics you individuals. We are not going to spend much time on any of that. One thing that is important is to know who your stakeholders are. So in the case here, in the case of a business, stakeholders are shareholders and customers. I think probably here, stakeholders are your members. Really aren't the other. So it's the members that you're trying to satisfy with the things that you do. Because that's why we're here, right? So, attributes. So an attribute is a quality or a feature regarded as a characteristics or an inherent part of something or someone. So it's a good thing. So attributes are good things. They're characteristics that you want to create them, you want to protect them, you want to preserve them, you want to enhance them, you want to make them better. So an example of an attribute would be affordable active living is an attribute of the fort. Large open spaces is an attribute of the fort. Look at other homeowners associations, they've got maybe one small park. They've got 2,000 acres of park. So the historic heritage is an attribute. The sense of community is an attribute or can be an attribute. So a little later when we get going, we're going to try and make this list bigger. You can start with those or get rid of those and start over. But that's when we start writing on these charts and hanging things on the wall, is when we get to defining what the attributes that you guys want for Fort Clark Springs out into 20 years in the future. The other side of that are boundaries. Boundaries are things, they can be, that you just don't cross them. They can be legal boundaries, they can be stakeholder boundaries, they can be self-imposed, so you can impose them, the members can impose them, but there are things that you need to be aware of, and you need to highlight that says, we're not crossing these. No matter what happens, we're not crossing these. So you can see how if you take the attributes here and the boundaries here, you start to close down into something that's manageable in terms of what you do want. So things like, merge with the city of Brackettville, not going to happen. Closing the swim park, or closing the RV park, selling land to generate operating cash. So these are the kinds of things that you want to create a list of, and you want to share to say, we're not going here. We're just not going here. So we're not going to make any decisions that take us anywhere towards any of these things. So the survey, I think you've seen the survey before, haven't you? It was, there were 40 of them submitted. 80% of them were submitted by the over 60 group, which in itself is telling because that's what most of us are here, right? I don't know if you ever did a demographics of the members, but the members, it's got to be 75% anyhow that are in our age group. So this is how the results came out. The light blue, so it's going from here, very important, back here to very unimportant. So a couple of things that stand out here is people are really vocal about what they do want. They're not real vocal about what's very unimportant. But I guess that's kind of human nature. But if you think about how you put your vision together and how you're going to spend your money and how you're going to evaluate how that money gets spent, you want to spend more of it up here and less of it down here. Because this is what the members are saying, this is what I value, this is not what I value so much. So when it comes time to doing trade-offs, and we've started to talk about some of that stuff and how you measure things in our meetings, is you refer back to stuff like this to say, is that an expenditure that's worth making? Are we spending enough up here, not enough down here?
You're not suggesting that you're going to use this particular survey to influence those decisions?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
Because
first
the way
of all,
the questions were
first
laid
of all,
out, it's meaningless.
40 out of 1,500 is not
a
significant
sample.
number.
Well, plus it would say something like, is security important to you? Of course it's important to everybody. But does that mean they want to spend more money than or they're just satisfied with security they have? Probably not.
Right.
Because we had one survey done where 87% weren't willing to spend any more, but yet it will rank high up there.
Right. Yeah, you can't look at this as just a way to it's what's important to people. It's not necessarily where all your money ought to be spent. But it's also not significant in terms of the number of responses. So you can't use it as that. But surveys are a tool that you can use in the future to find out where people's minds are and to help you do budgeting and make minor tweaks in direction as you go forward. They're useful tools if you get enough of them back. But they do give you some insight as to where people's minds are, at least for people's minds. Okay, so now it's kind of, if you've got that, and agree that makes sense to it, then it's time to start looking at developing a vision. So I kind of arbitrarily pick 20 years. You can pick any number you want. You don't want it too short, you don't want it too long. But it's really to say, how will people describe Fort Clark 20 years from now, 2038? What are they gonna say about it? What do you want them to say about it? What do you think they should say about it? What are the boundaries you can't cross in getting there? And what are the key attributes that you do want when you get there? Because depending upon what you do now and what the board that follows you does, that's going to create what people see 20 years from now.
I have a problem with the fact that one board does this and the next board undoes that. It seems to me that if we had a plan
Right.
to follow, that the next board couldn't undo,
Yeah.
it would make more sense.
If you can do a vision that's generic enough, you don't want it so specific that people take issue with it. If it's generic enough to say, this is the broad direction that we want to go, then future boards, one of the first things they should do is review that.
One of the things that I think we all think is important is the historic part of our associations. So what we've also learned recently is that it's pretty much coming apart. The infrastructure is not holding together. You know, if you just look at it, you've got to do things to keep it moving. And that's where I wish we would put our emphasis, at least for the near term. And then as we get that taken care of, move out into the community itself.
Right.
But that's my feeling.
But you can say in the attributes, you can put the historical part of it at the top of the list.
We better, it's going.
That vision statement is going to influence, it should influence how you prioritize your expenditure. So the thought being that you don't do this once and walk away from 20 years. You make it a process of boards as they continue to come in. You may tweak it, but you don't wholesale throw it out and come in with something new. That's way too disruptive. And not having anything like you do today, it's kind of, I assume it's kind of a free-for-all as to, you know, who gets to pick whether we're going to Chicago or the beaches in LA. You know, that shouldn't be a choice to give people every 3 years. That would be agreed to. And I mean, assuming we go ahead and we get a vision statement and you do this, I would publish it as widely as I could. You really want to find out what the members think of it before you formally adopt it, so that if you need to tweak it, you can tweak it. And hopefully if you get enough buy-in on it, then it's not going to change every time you get a turnover of a couple of board members and somebody comes in with a new idea. So the whole idea here is to focus on getting a direction and provide some stability so that you can make long-term financial decisions that aren't going to get changed in short-term down the road. So the kinds of things that you need to talk about in attributes are, what do you want for a mix between lot owners, charter members, family recreational members, guests? What's something that would really help us in terms of making a recommendation on finances is if we had a kind of a target as to how much of the income that you get you want to generate from members and how much you want to generate from guests and outsiders. Because it makes a huge difference if you come up with a budget this big and you're only collecting this much. You got to know whether you're going to put your energy into bringing more outside money in, or whether you're going to ask the members to kick in through assessments to cover the shortfall. Right now, there's no real guidance on how you make that decision. 80-20, 20-80, 50-50, what's the number? So, and then things that you can start to quantify are, the type of lifestyle, the type of amenities that you want to see go on in the future. Here's your historic recognition and preservation, the average quality and quantity of the amenities, and then the average quality and quantity of the services. So do you want to provide lots of things at an average level, or do you want to provide fewer things at higher level? And then what are your major sources of income? I mean, most, you have really, this is a double-edged sword. You've got a model here that's unlike almost any other homeowner association. Most homeowners associations get 100% of their money from their members. They don't have any outside revenue generating. You've got the benefit of having both, and to some degree you can decide how much you want to get from it. So anyhow, those kinds of things, and I'm sure there's more, and that's what we have to do is find out what those more are. Take all that and put it into 40 words or less, and you got a vision. Sounds easy, it's not. So what we do next is, I'm going to stop talking, now it's time for you to work. We're going to take a little break first. And the two things we're going to do is create lists of attributes and lists of boundaries.
So what you're doing, you're conducting a planning session now as a finance advisory committee.
We're conducting a workshop.
I thought you were going to present what we should do, but now you're going to do it. We're going to start making a list of what we.
Well,
And this is,
I can't.
this is just an exercise. It's just an exercise in how to do it.
Exercise. I've been through these.
I can't tell you what you want to do. It's
I
not
thought
my.
you were going to come up and present to us. This is what you should do. This is the steps you should take, and this is how you should do it.
And what I opened with was, what you should do is go through this exercise. If you'd rather have somebody else lead you through it, it's fine by me.
Oh,
You need to go through an exercise that creates a vision and creates a detailed financial plan so that we, as the Financial Advisory Board, know how to look at your finances and advise appropriately. Right now, we don't have a baseline to measure against. What this is trying to help you create a baseline that we can use to make recommendations to you in terms of your finances, and that you can use in terms of holding management accountable for what you want done. So it's a tool. If you guys don't want to use the tool, it's fine by me. But it's simply a process, and it's all based on financial management. You can call it planning, you can call it whatever you want. It's a workshop based on creating a set of tools to use to measure the performance of the organization based financially.
So back to my original, so you want to put that plan together, that vision statement, your short-term and long-term plan together right now?
Yep. Only if you do.
No, I'm not ready to do that. I think this is something that should involve, probably more people, other people, and involve more information from members before we start deciding what this place is gonna be over the next 10, 15, 20 years.
That's fine by me.
I think you can even come up with a vision, huh?
How about just getting
You
some
can have
general
one
ideas?
vision, I can have another vision, and the members maybe have another vision.
So why not just today, just come up with some ideas, just to,
If you're coming
think
up
about
with ideas, but the way I'm picking up on this is this is gonna be a plan that you're gonna put
No,
forward.
what I would recommend is that you guys who are, you're the directors of the board, you're responsible. You put together your view of the vision, and then everybody steps back for however many weeks it takes, and you get input. You get input from us. Why did you want that input? You don't, the last thing you want to do is jam something down somebody's throat that hasn't been able to participate in it. You have to start somewhere. You have to give them something to comment on. You know, part of the reason for going out with the survey was that. We got 40 results back. So we've got to find ways to get participation that in the end you end up with something that the vast majority of the members and the board buy into. And then that becomes the basis for putting a plan together. Vision's not a plan. Vision is a long, long way away from the plan.
I don't think that you wanna make it too long away, because as you found out with your survey, you're dealing with older people, younger than me, with people 60 and over.
Right.
So, 20 years from now, someone 60 probably isn't as important as 10 years.
I don't
from
agree.
now.
I think 20 years from now, you're gonna have the same age group that you got right now, because that's what this place is
Are
about.
they gonna think the same as it was here now?
They will be the 60, and it'll be the same age group. Unless we change the vision and say, this is not a retirement community anymore, and it's a place we wanna bring the community into and enhance it for the families and all of that, and change it, and put up playgrounds and all these other things for families. Unless we change that, it's gonna be what it is right now. There's no playgrounds on this fort. I mean, our swimming pool's as close as we come to a playground.
Why do you think most of us moved here, Chris?
For me, what my answer is security.
Security in the rental business.
The rental business came later. The rental business has got nothing to do with this fort. Matter of fact, it's more expensive to have a rental business here than anywhere in this county.
I'd really not like to get into the rental business, that was a different
Right,
workshop.
I mean, he brought it up, but,
Well,
but,
leave it alone.
yes.
I mean,
All I'm saying is I think that unless we change the vision we have right now, as best I can tell, is coddling the 60 years and older people, which is us.
I have a vision,
You agree with that?
yes, definitely.
That can be
I've
it.
lived here 20 years. I have seen where the new people are coming into Fort Clark. The same way that we came in 20 years ago, and that's through the RV park.
Right.
And my vision of something to throw out there is that we build a brand new RV park that will attract all these people with these $500,000 RVs that are going up and down the road. And then they settle here. We've got to get more members from somewhere to help spread the load.
I came here because of the low prices.
Well,
As
that
well
helps
as
too.
the
We have to keep the price low.
That's an advantage that you get to Texas by itself. I mean, Texas draws.
Well, if you're stuck in Texas, that's all you can do.
I came from out of state.
If you do an RV park, I understand what you're saying, if you do an RV park, you are,
But I don't wanna attract
pointing at a
500.
certain age group of
Right.
people only.
Our market, from what I see here, is the early retiring people. People that have bought RVs, retired full-time for 4 or 5 years, 6 years, decide they wanna settle down and they find us.
And
I've seen that
There's
with
nothing
lots of
wrong with
people.
that. If you wanna create a vision, go to the state of Arizona, they're everywhere you go, they overtouch the 55 community. Nobody less than 55 is allowed in there, and they target everything at those age groups.
I don't agree with that, because I want to welcome the young people that are here. But our main focus is going to people who want to come out here and retire. And that's the way to get them married.
That was basically what I was saying, is I think
And
we will always, we should
what,
always.
what you
be
can
effort.
see now is there's a lack of a vision. And what you're talking about here, that's not even part of a vision, those are tactics and actions, that's, those are specific things that you go do
But that works.
because I wanna go somewhere, but we don't know where we're going.
What I'm talking about is, this is the market that comes into here. And this is the market that is just as soon as we build a new RV unit, and I'm not talking about RV park, I'm talking about the unit. They come to the RV park, and they like it here, and then we build the RV unit, in 2 years it's full. That's what they're looking for, a place to downsize from the big houses. They're tired of traveling, they've seen everything, and, they're ready to settle down. And they come in here with a lot of energy to help volunteer. They're still wanting to do things, but they don't want a job anymore.
Well, I was not brought here by an RV, and none of the people from Idaho came because of the RV. They followed one another down after visiting each other, and all of them came because of the golf course, no state income tax, and affordable living, and, but, so there are those that have not come via the RV park.
And what you pointed out there, whether you realize it or not, you came because somebody
Yes,
told
we followed
you,
them
you
down.
followed them down, and probably the people you followed down did go through that RV park.
No, not one of them.
You don't think so?
I know for a
That's
fact,
unusual.
because I know every single one of them. We all knew each other in Boise. There's a couple of us now
So I'd
deceased.
have to ask you this question, and what brought them down?
But the
Because
point,
that's
the
part of
point,
the
the point is,
vision.
the point is, what we're seeing here is the lack of one.
Yeah, and what she.
What all
she
these
just
questions are
mentioned-
saying is, everybody's got a different opinion.
Yeah, but what she just mentioned, and I don't know what it is another attribute. Something else other than the RV park has brought people in here.
Golf is an attribute.
Golf is one, yeah.
RV is
Was
an
that it,
attribute.
Carl?
Yes.
Okay. That
The
satisfies
first couple
my-
that came here were just driving down Highway 90 and they stopped here because to retire. They stopped here and found out about it.
That's exactly what happened to us.
So the historic buildings are an attribute, right?
Great attribute.
They do two things, they draw people in and they make people that are here feel good.
There's also the wilderness areas and the ability to view wildlife. All of those are attributes.
So we just need to get some wildlife.
Yeah, put wildlife up there.
We got to be more like a national park,
We are unusual with our
not a
wildlife, that
national,
is
not a national
something
park, but
special.
the attitude of a national
Yeah.
park.
Find it
Should be
anywhere
doing
else.
that.
You don't.
The
I agree.
birding, wildlife, and also the birding, that
Sandy, it isn't just historical buildings either, it's the historical fort.
There's the history of it,
Well,
not just the physical.
Space limited.
historic everything, everything hidden here is historic, the trails, the
Now, I would say, what my vision would be for laid back, quiet, inexpensive, low traffic community with buildings and equipment kept in good shape and efficient operation. And I'd like to add a comment to that.
Efficiency.
Both myself and a number of people that I have discussed it with have pointed something out that I didn't come up with it, they did, and I thought that's true. Many of us, you mentioned Arizona, we could live any damn where we wanted.
Right.
We could live in any one of the states we wanted, or even other countries. We chose to live here because this place is the way it is, because it is quiet, it is laid back, it is low traffic, and it is mainly adults, seniors. Now, to have a senior community, you have to meet a lot of federal guidelines. It isn't just that easy putting up a sign.
I have a question.
I'm still talking, Chris. So, that's why I and many other people have lived here. So that's our vision, that's what we want it to stay.
It's good.
The question I was gonna ask you is, how did you find this place?
I found this place 2X store. We used to stay in Del Rio, and then they had a special on golf on Fridays, so we came down to play golf with the group. And we saw a sign that said the RV park. We would have never moved here because of that, though, Sid.
No, I'm just
Never.
saying, no, I'm
Yeah,
just
that's-
pointing out.
Definitely this golf course I haven't played,
No,
but it's cheap.
but you read about the golf course, you heard about it. That's why I was saying.
So that made me aware of the RV park, so we came, we stayed a week in the RV park, then we came back and started spending part of our winters here, a month or two, and that's how we came here.
The reason I'm bringing that up, because so much, and in my case, and so many people, and even from you, I mean, even from you, I get that you found it by accident. Total accident.
I wasn't looking for it.
Right, but John, let's don't go there, because that's not an attribute. That's a how you get people here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I
That's,
was
that's
driving,
down, that's
What I
not
was-
what we
what I
are,
was
it's
gonna
what we
put
are
on
gonna
the
get
board.
people here.
what I would like to put on the board as an attribute is advertise.
It's not an attribute.
That's when you get down into goals and objectives, is how you're gonna get people
How are you
here.
gonna get there?
Yeah.
Well,
What we
don't
wanna,
we don't wanna-
what we're
we don't
talking
wanna lose
about,
that.
what it is, what is this thing? How
We
do you
don't wanna lose
describe
that,
the
though.
thing? I mean, that, you know, Dan did a good job of capturing a couple sentences worth of what it means to him. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get that encapsulated into,
In all of that, we've never
I don't
said retired, community. And I think that's a good part of it. It is a retired community. It's not a retirement community so much as it is a retired community, if that makes sense.
Tired, maybe take the re off.
Tired work.
We are tired.
Yeah.
but the beauty of it is, it's not just that.
It isn't.
And I don't think you want it to be just that.
You can
Yeah.
add something to it, but
Agreed.
it isn't.
If it were just 55 and over?
Oh, that'd be wonderful, but I know it never can
Yeah.
happen, so it's an
And
impossibility.
I don't think we suffer from what we have here.
Yeah, it's,
It would be nice to get a few other,
Some people retire at 50, if they're lucky.
you know, one of the things.
We were lucky if we got to do that, that's not gonna happen to our kids.
Probably not.
I would still put security up there. Don't you think?
So it makes, it's what?
Security, don't you think that is?
Yeah, you
I
can
don't
put
know,
that
I
on.
was up front.
Yeah, that's fine.
How about easy living,
Easy,
affordable living?
yeah, put it up. All right, we're ready to take it.
That does not,
Same.
Now we're on a roll.
that does not stick you
Yeah.
into retired people only.
Right,
Right.
right.
But you keep taxing members that affordability.
why are we afraid of retired people?
We can say retired people.
I think.
I am.
Right there.
So there's nothing wrong with saying that, and if that's what we believe, and we should say it
But it's not a
because,
retirement community. There are probably more retired people than others, but there's an emphasis on retired.
right, so if we fold that in, then when we get to the next step of goals and objectives and things, it's gonna say, because we're all old and retired, we gotta replace ourselves, right?
Yes.
How are we gonna get them? Then it gets to what John's talking about, when we get into goals and objectives. If what we want is a high average age group, because it's quieter, it's calmer, everybody's not running out at 6:30 in the morning to go to work, then we gotta have a plan in place and a mechanism to replace us.
Well, we
So
think-
putting that into the vision, if you want it, is a good thing to do.
I think that this is what it's been here since it was established in the early 70s. We just replaced the ones that, in fact, we have called ourselves a holding tank for the for the nursing home.
My brother, when I was talking about moving, this is just a quick note, when I was talking about moving here, he did some research on this place. He come to me saying, that's just a place that people go to die.
Well,
Of course,
So is everywhere.
I had an answer for him. I want you to understand, I had an answer for him. I said, I don't have a problem with that.
So does anybody else have any other attributes we want to get up? We won't write them down. Does anybody out there have any?
Security.
Got that
Got
over.
that?
A swimming pool, you haven't put a spring-fed swimming pool in
Swimming
that.
pool, where is
Very, that is very.
On top of that, say what kind of swimming pool it is.
it? Big.
A spring-
Historic
Yeah,
swimming pool.
historic
It's a
swimming pool.
Spring fed.
Spring-
Are we the largest in the state?
No,
Third.
third.
largest.
Third largest.
It's not an attribute, but if I was going to attempt to describe what Fort Clark Springs is, I would call it a historic resort community.
I like that.
Resort,
I like that.
resort term is good.
Yeah, that's, write that down.
Really a.
Just write it down.
Okay, no,
We
that's
can-
fine.
we'll throw stuff
We said
out
we're
there.
gonna write everything
I'm
down.
writing everything down. Good one. Anybody else?
Yes, I have a vision, and I said, Fort Clark Springs is a community whose people enjoy affordable living, historic buildings in West Texas, wildlife, and a secure life.
Okay, we got most of them.
We have-
Any other attribute?
We have one attribute,
Gated community.
one attribute that we don't even have any control over, but we take it
What's that?
as our climate.
Climate. Put
Climate
it
is
down.
God gives us the climate, and that's.
Saw one back here.
Well, we gotta pull our trails in there somewhere. The trails and the creek, the springs, that's got to be a drawing point for a lot
How
of
about
people.
open space? Does that
Yes,
work?
yes.
Call it open space.
So speaking for the younger people,
Excellent.
I moved here because of the high school. We
I
had a
don't know if you have it
choice.
or not, but you have
We
it.
had a choice of living in Del Rio
Yeah,
or
that's
here.
good.
We chose
Yep,
here
yep.
because of the school.
Right.
But I liked it because it was a gated community.
Do you have that up
That
there?
goes back to
Put that-
security.
yeah,
Did you have that
security.
over there?
Any more? All right, how about if we take a crack at, where did I have it? Boundaries.
You read them off, John?
Well, the ones that I put up here, which you can get rid of if you want, if we merge with the city of Brackendale is a no-no.
Yeah, that's a separate one.
Closing the swimming pool, closing the RV park, selling land to generate operating cash, relaxing architectural standards, I don't even know if there are.
Yes, there are.
There are.
So,
And relax.
what else can you think of that just don't go there?
All of those.
Yes, we did put this into the protective restrictions that we can sell no more common property without the vote of the membership.
Yeah, and that's kind of this one,
Yeah.
that you don't fund your operating expenses by selling capital assets.
Well, we have in the past, but, not anymore because
Good business.
we are short of the land that's guaranteed in our protective restrictions now.
This may seem self-evident, but something along the lines of staying within a budget, not exceeding a budget. You know, or not outspending your income, I
So-
should say.
Fiscal responsibility, something like that.
Yes, because
That's good.
we did have a few years ago a budget put forth and approved by that board that called for a loss of $320,000 for that year. And I don't think we need anything like that.
That's not responsible.
Good one. Anything else that are no-nos?
I would add that in recent years, we've had balanced budgets, which was appreciated.
So are there any kinds of things that you don't want to come into the fort? Certain types of whatever,
I understand.
playgrounds or
Businesses.
How about-
businesses, what kind of businesses don't you
We
want?
could have small businesses out of homes.
So,
We don't want to build any building. You don't want McDonald's here. they don't wanna come, but that's the kind of thing.
So a boundary is no commercial businesses.
Well, no, you
Well, not
Yeah,
commercial.
that
You
is.
We already have
got
that.
that.
And we want somebody,
Regulated,
say again?
regulated commercial business. In other words, it would be up to the masses whether it would be allowed. or
Well,
not.
I'm thinking of businesses that, nowadays though, you can have quite a big business and not have a standalone.
Yeah, especially with the online.
Our rules
business.
and regulations as they are now, which are a dedicatory instrument, I believe, already limit the amount of businesses you can have here. So,
There's not much limitation except that we don't,
You should still say it here and then go write the rules, because this one is done, it will cause you to go write some rules to say, this is what we do this.
well, for me, I
we have
would, would say no private businesses.
How about something like the, limited, non-FCS businesses? Cause we have,
Association businesses would cover the hotel and golf course and that type of thing.
some,
but we also have a plumbing company that I want to say here.
Oh,
And a few people who do things with the internet out of their home, I don't see how they can.
So I think what you're saying is you don't want external businesses that are gonna be disruptive.
And we don't wanna.
Somebody doing something out of their house is not disruptive.
Yes.
I'm not sure how to say that, but that's.
You don't want nobody actually, doing car repair in the streets or something, I think is what they're trying to say.
Maybe the way you could word it, internal, businesses.
Or you could
internal.
say only permitted home businesses allowed or something.
Yeah, that's where the declaration is.
Which are-
Regulated home businesses, something like that.
We've got that
And
already.
the other thing you have is the plat where everybody lives are,
That's already pretty much.
the plat takes precedent, and there's a resident, they're all residential subdivisions, so it's a residential community, so they don't even have proper, I know you don't have a zoning board or zoning rules here, but, they're operating out of their house, they're in residential flat.
Non-residential
I
building.
don't, it's a really good point, I don't know how to say it.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think you don't wanna get so restrictive that, sometime in the future, if it made financial sense, you may wanna have an operator operate the motel with their employees and, be part of something that has a nationwide reservation system or whatever. You don't wanna block that out, I don't think.
Well, you can always treat it, the plan is a roadmap, it's a guideline,
Right.
and,
But you don't want a McDonald's sitting down by the bridge either. So that's the point we're trying to come across, and I don't know how to say it.
cause we wouldn't be.
No McDonald's by the bridge.
No McDonald's.
Regulated
change.
businesses.
No change.
How about clean? We haven't said that yet,
That's on the attribute side, right?
is it?
Yeah, we don't wanna say clean as a boundary.
I'm sorry.
Boundaries are things we don't wanna do.
We don't wanna,
We could put dirty here.
well, yeah,
we have plenty of
we get so much dirt from across the road with all of the fast food joints and cars.
Well, these are different that, lines you cannot cross, in other words, fiscal responsibility is a line we cannot cross. Some sort of commercial something, and,
Yeah,
and these things.
these are hard to do.
These are hard.
These are way harder to do than those. So are there, is it done?
Isn't the museum an attribute? As
Right,
far
yeah,
as
but
how
I
they
put
promote
that under the
history,
history
that's
stuff.
Right here,
Right.
Yeah,
historic
all of
buildings,
the-
et cetera.
The whole historical heritage is a huge attribute. It can also be made into a draw to attract, depending upon what you decide you want to do. When we get to the next stage,
They have historic.
And
buildings.
one of the things that would go right along with this historic, we don't wanna put it over here in the boundaries, it's one of the things that, part of our history was movies. And that's as commercial as you can get. I don't think we wanna throw that out. We don't wanna throw that away, because
But
that
you're
is
not
an
building or
opportunity.
building.
Right, but it's not inside the
Right, I mean, we
boundary.
don't wanna we wanna be careful with our boundaries, we don't
Right.
throw that out.
Right.
Actually, they did bring
Huge
down that
opportunity.
building.
And we make money by leasing out our venues. For instance, we made over $1,000 a month off of Elite when they were here for 2 years in the fire station that has had absolutely no other use. So, you gotta, but this is understandable, not bringing in large, commercial ventures like McDonald's or Wendy's
Right.
or a service station or.
Yeah, but if you do that and somebody wanted to open Dickman Hall as a restaurant, an outsider, not, so, doesn't that throw?
You gotta be able to do that, so
Yeah,
that's
but
why.
that throws it into the
Well,
McDonald's
no, because
category.
this is their own
No,
building.
because
One thing,
that
we can't
is
sell
part
our
of the
property
historic.
anyway.
You try doing something where the historic part of Hickman Hall gets attacked and watch the people out of the
No,
historical
I understand what you're
society
saying.
come after me.
That's
talk
why
on
you need to
top.
be careful on what you put in there, because
Yeah,
you
that's
don't
what
want
I'm
to tie your hands. And
I was wondering
But
about.
that isn't the
we don't
same
have to
thing.
use that, so.
I mean, this also can mean not allowing people to come in and build their own buildings on the fort.
Right.
You know, it doesn't necessarily eliminate renting or leasing.
There's a
the
term
venue.
for that, that
Major
the internet
chain.
people use. What's the,
Brick and mortar?
no brick and mortar, that's good. No brick and mortar business.
This may not be relative, but it's something that's going through my mind as we get into kind of a brainstorming thing. Suppose that we would like to have an up-to-date RV park. There's nothing wrong with the one we have over there. But we're getting a lot of people who are staying there. But it's not like an RV park where you stay 2 weeks and that's the minute. They stay all winter, some stay 4 or 5 months. And some have even put their RV parks in there and pay the thing and just leave it there all year. We could leave that one for that, but suppose that somebody in the RV park business came in here and offered if we could find the land and get an okay from the membership to build a brand new RV park that was nothing but an RV park. And this is just conjecture. It may be, but it's something to think about.
But we're in the boundaries.
So is that a boundary that should not be crossed, or it's a
Well, I
boundary
would
that you
cross
might
it.
want to
I
cross?
wouldn't want to cross it, so don't.
So that's where we have to be
Yeah,
careful about the business side of
Yeah,
it,
that's what I'm talking about right now.
because we don't want to get so restrictive in this vision statement that it ties your hands going down the road.
Well, they just, remember years ago, they wanted to build a retirement. What do they call it? Assisted living over here on the part of the hill.
They would have built that in the city if they're there.
And see, that
If they had found any place.
would have fallen under the selling
Yeah,
land
right.
that we don't want to
I
do.
think you have to come back and revisit the business.
But I don't think that.
Yeah, I would not put too much of this kind of stuff in there. Because the vision statement is just saying I'm going that direction, it's not saying how I'm gonna get there. And getting there means you gotta generate income, you may wanna generate income by bringing an operator in for an RV park. Or you may wanna generate income by creating more things that the public come in and spend money on rather than raise assessments. So you don't wanna get so narrow that you'll tie your hands on how you can put the details together, how you're gonna pay for all this in the long term.
You can't do that emotionally, that's the one thing.
Right. So I wouldn't touch that one on a vision statement, because you just don't know.
Or we're putting it in the vision statement.
Yeah, because what we're doing today is a
It is
vision
something
statement, we're
that-
not. The boundaries are things that you mentioned in the vision statement as just kind of offhand things, we don't go there. And you really focus the vision statement on the attributes. Any more input?
I think that last confused me. I've been through these, obviously I've been retired a while, but I've been through these kinds of, workshops so many times over the years. And I'm confused now, because I thought we were going to a vision statement. We would go to a vision statement and you put all of the boundaries in that vision statement.
We don't promote it. You just simply, if there are 2 or 3 large boundaries that you want to put down that you're not going there, then you can comment on those in the vision statement.
Such as, like, sun and land.
Yeah, such as, you know,
Yes.
I wouldn't put that one in the vision statement, it's a little too politically incorrect, but, you know, there's certain things you absolutely want to preserve, you never want to give away.
And you
your
don't think that they
historic
got
heritage.
there and the, declaration? Protected just restrictions, when we redid it, you don't think we got there?
Oh, yeah, they may all be there, so we aren't gonna use all these by any stretch of the
Well,
imagination.
We really don't want to.
I'm having
have
trouble with-
land in there because we would have to.
I've been working with, this is my
But
first
I
board
would say,
here,
like,
and
I was so that.
on the board, and
It was.
we've been redoing the declarations, we've been redoing the bylaws, and through it all, we've had a vision statement, maybe not as pretty as it could be, starting in the declaration, I believe.
And what does it say?
Well, if I could quote back to you, I could probably say my name.
But
But
that's,
it would have been a good document that I thought to bring it with me, but I didn't. And that is something that
we should
it's a
certainly
place
take
to
a look
start.
at.
It really is a place to start.
I would agree with that.
But the declarations don't directly or even indirectly address
No, I'm
fiscal
not arguing
responsibility.
that, but it's a place where we should jump off. It's not, we should not try to
Because actually,
reinvent the wheel is what they like to say.
declaration is a, can't find it now, is a shortened term, what it really is a declaration of restrictive covenants, protective restrictions, so it already has restrictions laid out in it.
But we don't, the vision statement is not a statement of restriction.
No, no.
It's,
I wish we could find, somebody would find their copy, but it does not, there is a, I, at the last minute, decided it would be too early to bring with me, so. The introduction to this says a lot of what you're talking about.
oh, there you go.
Back to the boundaries, there's one boundary that I think that all of us will agree with. And that we do not want the closed gate disturbed. We want all the security that we already have.
Yeah, I think that's probably an attribute.
Now, we had it, but on the boundary and others, we don't ever want to change it. We don't
And
ever
then
want
as
to
a
change
committee
it.
that they didn't all have a copy of that.
I think that's one of our number one boundaries.
Yeah, this is more of a preamble to a legal document rather than
But it does get into some of what you're talking about.
a little bit, yeah.
I'm not saying this is what you want, but this is part of what this is
Yeah.
part of our background.
Right.
The next one is the bylaws, it's part of our background. All of this needs to be taken into consideration.
For instance, John, the, farther in there, you find where it restricts the sale of our, first of all, it prohibits the sale of any, common property without the board of above.
Right, and that's where that belongs, that doesn't belong in the vision statement. The vision statement says, I'm going there.
Neither Dan nor I are talking about using it to business.
But you have that as one of
Jumping
your,
off.
one of your boundaries.
Yeah, but, don't get me wrong, you don't, the vision statement is not list all your attributes, list all your boundaries. You may not specifically call out any of them. What you want to do is put 40 or 50 words together that can be widely distributed. You know, it's a third of that paragraph that's in there. So short.
Like you say something like to provide an affordable resort, provide an affordable resort, provide, it's all for a member of the members of the organization will have opportunities for, we can list many types of activities that we have here. Horseback riding, trail, and all that kind of
So what you're saying is affordable resort living, you had some good stuff earlier. But you listed that.
So it's, way back, quiet, inexpensive, low traffic, community, where we keep our assets, our buildings and equipment in really good shape. Keep them up to snuff and operate efficiently, particularly financially efficient.
that these members can enjoy the benefits of a historic affordability, of historic community,
Right.
I'm just trying,
well preserved.
I didn't hear that, start, I didn't hear. Ladies, please, I can't hear, yeah, thank you.
Where the members can enjoy the benefits of historic heritage.
Well, we could take a long time to really define that exactly, but that's something to think about. We have more historical buildings here, I think, than any other.
Yeah, just enjoy the benefits of historical heritage and
Easy living.
put all the activity stuff in there somehow.
That one statement would take a half a day to work out.
Okay, say again.
By itself.
I was track between the two of these.
The benefits of historical heritage. So we'll fine tune it later. Low cost, somehow get low cost, see other stuff, you get quiet.
Affordable resort community where members can enjoy the benefits of historical heritage.
Affordable resort laid back community.
Quiet,
Quiet,
get the word quiet,
serene.
yeah.
In other words, as an example, if we wanted to live in a place where you had thousands of people coming in on the weekends to do business or whatever, we could have moved to Canton. We didn't have to move here. We moved here because it doesn't have that.
So quiet, you had, what else?
Yeah, and quiet does not exclude families and young
Right.
children.
No, not at all.
We all had, I had 6 kids myself. They were so quiet all the time.
Really?
Yeah. But I understand.
We need to put something about all the level of activity.
That's what I was thinking. Quiet living.
And
A variety of activities.
back in the day,
I noticed that these, as before, National Association.
I'm thinking about something like, a lot of people just come just having a place to get out and hike.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to get is the outdoor
there behind affordable.
And a
Affordable,
wide
secure
variety
resort
of
community.
outdoor
Outdoor
activity and living.
On the first thing, that's for sure. Change that to a little.
Resort makes it sound like it's expensive,
Yeah.
and then later on you say, well, it's not expensive.
It says affordable for purchase.
Right, do you wanna say anything in there about, as a means of keeping member cost affordable, we will selectively raise money from outside sources or something like that? How do you wanna balance between
I don't think that we,
what you get from the outside and what you charge the member?
Well, we're doing, actually
what
doing
you
that
get
now.
from the outside is gonna come in through the motel, and the RV park. The golf course, of course, loses a ton of money every year.
Right.
But it could be a source if it's right.
So those are your two income sources. And I'll say this, I know this isn't gonna be popular, but then I'm used to that position.
Something.
Ever since I've been here, I've heard over and over and over again from different people, different management people, how they were going to tap into our historic predominance here, and how we're gonna draw more visitors, and we're gonna make money and have tours, and we're gonna build up our income from that. And it doesn't happen.
Do you want it to happen, or do you not want it
Not
to happen?
particularly, but I don't have to worry about it, because it isn't going to happen. You have to be realistic, people are not looking at it realistically. We have wonderful history here, and an outsider can come in and see that history and enjoy it and take a look at it all, and then 2 hours later, they go down the road, because they've already seen it all. They're gonna stay here for a week or a month exploring it, not the average one, unless they decide they fall in love with the
You
place.
could
and
promote
move
it, but
So you're
I
not
don't think
gonna
you want to, right?
You're not gonna generate a bunch of income that way. It's not, it's been tried over and over again, you've never done it yet, and you never will. So I think what you have to look at is what are the assessments the members are gonna pay, and keep your budget within that, and the motel and the RV park income that you can generate.
One thing-
Ann is putting up the
So
RV
you're-
park could be enhanced.
One thing that has just recently come to light this year, effectively, we finally done it right, is our hunt.
Well, we've had.
So, I mean, and I don't see that going away, because it is a way we,
Well, I left out the hunt. The hunt is a big, it's huge success this year, a big moneymaker, and that's good, something like that. But I don't see
it's,
where you're gonna
it's
go
almost like a
anywhere else.
renewable resource, because it just keeps coming back. And, it's a good thing. That's a good thing. We don't want anyone to lose that.
So what I hear you saying is you don't want to try to specify where your income comes from. If costs go up, you're gonna hit the members with an assessment.
We may have to, it's like,
That's
they
life,
kept,
you know.
they kept,
Well, it's not like if you say, I wanna generate 40% of my operating budget from outside sources,
So you can say that, but then do it.
to improve the motel or turn the commissary into something, you can do it. I don't know if you wanna do it, but you need to have the discussion as to, do you want to have a specific target amount of the operating budget, which is hand to mouth, that you generate from outside sources, and then go do it? Or do you wanna get what you can from that, and when costs go up, you assess the member? I don't care, I'm just here to point out that.
Well, I think we can maintain, we wanna maintain what we've got going now. And the commissary building, that something could be looked at to be done with that, but I don't know how you could do it except to bring in an outside developer, because we don't have the money to develop that building.
Right, and do you wanna prohibit that, or do you wanna leave it open for that?
I think I'd leave it open personally.
I would prohibit it, I just wouldn't promote it. So we'll,
when somebody comes here and really wants to do it, I don't, we aren't we aren't on a busy highway, I don't know if we were on I-10 maybe, 85, but we're on 90.
Neither is Fredericksburg, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, it's closer to,
It's, the point is,
have you got some
the
idea?
point is from a, no, I don't, I mean, my job is to
I know what your
recommend
job is, but
financially.
have you thought of any ideas, since you put us on the spot?
No. You know, stuff at the commissary or more, you know, you could do concerts in the amphitheater, there's stuff you can do to bring people in, but the point I'm trying to make is not what's a good idea and what's a bad idea. From what I've seen of the budgets, you're right on the ragged edge of not being able to maintain this place at a level you want to maintain it. And costs are going up all the time, so
Yes.
how are you gonna pay for the costs that are going up and keep everything repaired? This is a huge amount of real estate to take care of based on, what, 1,500, 1,600.
That's just going back to what I talked about. I said a new RV park, but that might be outside of our realm, but I have seen every RV park, when we first came here, there was 2 in Del Rio. Then they put in one in Uvalde, in 2 years it was full, and you couldn't never get in. They put in one in Hondo, in 2 years it was full.
Right.
The escapee thing down there is full. Our RV park is full. They built a new one out on close to Amistad, 2 years, it's full in the wintertime. That's something that can bring in new revenue.
I would agree with
And it
that.
would also bring in more customers to buy some more of this
Is
product.
our plan to have a new RV park?
No, I think,
We're not talking plans.
Well, we keep coming
We're
back
not
to
talking
this
about
one.
plans.
What we're talking about is, as a board, in a statement that's gonna guide what you do you wanna talk about the split generically between member-generated income and outside-generated income?
When I hear,
Do you wanna limit it, or do you wanna not limit it?
I hear you saying in this
I think-
expense revenue equation that isn't gonna balance out, you're predicting, based on what you saw in the budget.
Right.
You see the common way is always look at solving that equation problem by looking at the income and not looking at the expense side. You know, maybe
We look at the
that,
expense side, but-
and maybe there's ways of reducing our expenses some.
Can I say something? I think we talked all around this with our expense cost comparison. And what we have here, right here today, the way it stands right now, is that the golf course eats up everything that the RV park and the motel makes. It's almost a total wash. Do we want that to continue?
I'm going to have to interrupt you and remind you that there are a lot of people who wouldn't live here if it weren't
I
for golf
hear you.
course.
I
They wouldn't
just
buy
mentioned-
land,
I
they
just-
wouldn't become members.
I just mentioned the fact, right now, what we're talking about is we've got these 2 revenue enhancing businesses. They are, everything they make, and this is a statement, it's not a, it's nothing more than a statement. The golf course eats up every bit of it.
Right.
We
We're
can
not-
leave it
We're
like
not
that.
gonna solve that
We
problem.
can leave it like that, or we can look at it another way. There's always 2 ways to look at every problem.
Right, but John, we're not gonna solve that problem.
I know,
So
but I want to tell the other side of this.
Let's move on,
I want,
and
wait a moment, I want to tell one
you'll
more
get your
thing.
chance to move on.
How can you not?
But we're here to talk about putting some words here. We're not gonna talk about a golf course problem, we're not gonna talk about an RV problem. The fact that we're having this discussion tells me that you got a problem in terms of having a common ground where the board comes from in terms of where you get your money and how you spend it.
That's why I wanted to make one more statement.
Right.
The other side of the statement is, if you look at it another way, the membership based on what we sent out as ballots, the 1,739 ballots. And if you split the cost of the golf course, forget about the motel, and let the motel and RV park become what they really should be, is income producing, not something to substitute something. Let the members pay for the golf course,
Right, but
and that
that
breaks down to only $60 per member
I
a
mean,
year.
that
It's affordable.
doesn't
It's
get
not a
to
big
the
deal.
that's a problem that's easily solved if what you do is set a basis for how you make that decision. Who's gonna pay? But you gotta have
That's the question.
something in here. It's, otherwise, these arguments are gonna go on for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
You gotta have something that you agree on that says,
In our way.
do the businesses have to be break even? Yes or no? Can one offset the other? Do they enhance each other? Do businesses bring in new members?
Do we want to provide amenities?
Yeah, it's a perk.
rather
Right,
than-
so this is not the point to debate whether this makes money and that doesn't make money.
That's my point.
This
Golf
is,
course is a
this,
perk.
this is a, this is everything.
The
This
RV
is a
park and
point.
the
This
motel
is-
is not a perk, they're business.
The health club, the team center, they're perfect, the swimming pool,
Those
they're
all
perfect.
could be, but they're not yet. But that maybe add some more
The point
capacity
is,
to our
point,
income.
what are you gonna use for guidelines as to how you're gonna pay for things in the future? Are you going to equally raise assessments and prices of things like golf and motel and businesses? Are you gonna let one overtake the other? What's the guidance? How do you wanna
So
generate?
from this, you would say supported by, right?
Yeah, what will the
You would
membership?
say,
Yeah,
I'll talk for a while, John.
so-
You would say would be supported by.
you could say supported by member assessment, you could say supported by
Is this
a mix of,
In talking about the vision, you're asking for us to put some
Yes.
emphasis rather than, I was going to, but I think I just let John talk.
which John?
I think, kind of going back to what Ann's talking about, RV parks, they spring up in these towns around us and they double and triple the size and so on and so forth. But one of the reasons that they're there where they are is because there's something to do there. You've got the, you got the valley, which has stores, restaurants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You got San Miguel Rio. We don't have that. So we have to entice people to come here based on what we have.
Which Del Rio and Uvalde don't have.
Yeah, but
Quiet,
That's
calm,
right.
security,
But the
golf.
point is,
We talked about the trails and somehow we don't get that in there.
So,
But some people want the lights, and some people want the security here.
right, but you're not gonna give people lights, you're gonna give them the quiet. So that's what you need, that's what you have.
but then you have to have something, the vision would have to state what is gonna entice people to wanna come here for.
That's what this says.
You,
So the first part says, why do I wanna come? The second part says, how am I gonna pay for it? And you're
I was
gonna,
going to try to put it, but I think I've got too much competition.
well, you were on a roll, you were doing good. Because you were supported by a mixture of,
In our vision, do we want to say member assessment?
yeah, member assessments and
We don't have a good word for this.
what's a good word for the businesses you control, not outside, it's the ones.
Revenue generating?
I didn't say revenues. I didn't say anything
whole,
else.
the whole, you're talking about home-based businesses,
No,
cottage industry.
no.
Yeah, I'm talking the golf course, the
Talking about
hotel, what do we call
member
it?
assessments and businesses owned by the association, but I don't know.
Yeah, just say association-owned businesses. Perfect,
All right.
perfect. So then what that says is, we're gonna, this is all we have to offer, here's how we're gonna pay for it. And then when you get to the next step, you can talk about the balance of how you pay for it. You're gonna pay more from the members, or do you wanna freeze the member at some level and you increase what you do? You get an RV park in, you double the size of the motel, you do,
I think
but
what's.
that doesn't belong
I
in here.
think what's happened to us is that they kept the number of assessments so low for so long that rather than ask for instance, when a vacuum cleaner broke down, they went home and got their own rather than ask for a new.
But one, and that was kind of my point, my feeling is you're right there at the rock, you got zero
Yes.
cushion in that budget.
But that's.
So you've either got to stop doing things, which is take activities away,
We can't even.
What type of activities do you
close some of the things that are on the list. You're not at a point where you can go in and say, take 10% on each budget and everything will be okay, because you can find 10%, you're way beyond that. You're at a point now where you say, I just gotta shut something down. And I don't think you wanna shut something down.
And
So then,
Yes, because we had to with the restaurant.
so then the choices are, you gotta either increase assessments or charge more at the businesses or grow the businesses or both.
Hopefully we need more businesses.
But this will let you do that if we say that. You don't wanna get into now how you're gonna do this. Because you could pick a strategy and say, our strategy is, we're gonna freeze assessments at the lowest rate in the state. We're gonna get people here because it is so darn cheap, they're not going anywhere else. But then we're gonna expand the RV park 3 times, we're gonna have more motel rooms.
We're going to have to increase the number of roads and.
Right, but the thing you're doing is you're gonna bring more people in, and you're gonna get, that can be a strategy as to how to do it. The other thing you can do is say, the other end of that spectrum is, we're gonna make it exclusive. We don't want any more than 1,700 members, and we're gonna find all our money somewhere else.
We have memberships, not members. We have about
Memberships.
800 members, but 1,700 memberships.
Right. So anyhow, it's the point is, I think that does it for a vision, because you can now go out and say, this is what we have to sell, this is how we're gonna pay for it. The vision statement doesn't say how you're gonna do it.
Is there some way we somehow left out the wildlife and.
Well, that's where the variety of the mixed bag.
Yeah, and you
but
want-
a wide variety of activities can be card games and shuffleboard
It's all
and that
that
sort of
stuff.
thing. No, that's not really the big thing here. The big thing is the wildlife.
Yeah, so just write that down. I agree with you. You need to get the outdoor in there.
The variety of activities including
If you're
hiking
not careful,
trails.
you can see open
Yeah,
carry
I
all
would,
over
I
the
would
place.
take that.
Can you want to say outdoor
Main thing.
activities, a
And listen.
wide variety of outdoor activities or
Yes.
something?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, just put a wide variety of outdoor activities.
If we were going to use up to 40 words, we could actually list maybe about 10 of the main ones, and then say other.
Right, that comes in what you do next. This
Okay.
is your,
Okay. all
this
right.
is your less than 40 words. And it kind of says, here's what I have to sell, here's how I'm gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you do in a vision statement. Then when you start getting down into this stuff,
Yeah.
you can see how it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
You almost
That's
got
where
40 words
here is
in.
how am I gonna do it? Am I gonna ask the members to pay for it? Am I gonna raise golf course fees? Am I gonna increase the size of the RV park? That's where you start having these discussions, and those are not
No, it's not easy.
20-year long things. Those are
One of our
variable.
audience handed me this, let me read it, it might have some significance of a few words. Fort Clark Springs is a place that has it all, from a rich historical background, location, and recreational activities that are affordable for all ages.
That's an advertisement.
You know, that's,
Yeah, keep that for the advertising. Anybody wanna tweak that anymore?
The thing that we, not to tweak that, I'd like to point out, based on what Richard's told me, it's kind of a thing that we may not realize with, we're getting really close to build out here. We don't have to, and that should be our first goal maybe, is to get to build out where there's nothing left to sell.
Right, that's in the next, that's when we get to the next
But I
part.
mean, as far as a goal or a vision, let's get to build out. Let's sell what we got. Let's sell all these lots we've got and do whatever we have to do
Goals
to
and
do
Yeah,
that.
that's when we get into all
Increase
that.
our membership until we max it out.
You can't have this too specific, or you're gonna limit yourself.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Vision or your mission paragraph statement.
So, I mean, is everybody happy with that as
I don't like the word resort. I wish
Okay.
we could,
Affordable community, how about just
Just
affordable
scratch
residential community?
how about affordable gated community?
You know, it's kind of gated, but it's kind of not
I
gated.
understand.
when it is gated.
the one thing about the resort word is
We
it,
have a thing called a
it
gate.
signifies lots of activities.
We're an HOA,
Okay,
I would remind people,
yeah, that's right, we should probably.
The
So how about our
HOA
residential community?
provides facilities, not activities.
Why not homeowners association, we haven't got that in there anyway.
What about, what about?
And guess what, come out of it.
Somebody said residential, that's good. You did? I like residential.
What is that sheet up there? Is that a vision or?
That's your vision statement.
I thought this other one was.
No, those are attributes,
And then the boundaries are somewhere else.
yeah.
Yeah, they were here, they were
They're-
only,
they're-
they were up there, and then we only added a couple of them.
You don't have
We're
to.
coming back to that later.
So what you wanna do in here, you wanna go back and look at your attributes and say, does this cover them? And you don't wanna list them all. And then you go back and look at it and say, does this allow me to do something that I said in the boundaries I don't wanna do?
Can you read off what's up there? Affordable,
Affordable residential community where members can enjoy the benefits of historical heritage, quiet, secure living, and a wide variety of outdoor activities, supported by a mix of assessments and FCSA-owned businesses.
thank you.
That's what we want.
It describes
You know, it's short, it's
That
crisp,
even describes
it's,
this today.
And it could, and into the future, because it's set up so that it's kind of general, allows you to move within it.
right,
Yeah,
so
there's
it kinda gets at some of the boundaries because you put FCSA
Oh, this-
owned businesses in here, that excludes McDonald's, right?
yeah.
So you kind of test it against, you've got golf course, RV park, you've got all that stuff in here without specifically saying it. If you wanted to add something in the future, as long as it met this criteria, you could do it. So that's why you want to keep it simple enough that it allows you to go that direction, but doesn't block you into the current path.
Does saying FCSA owned businesses restrict people who have businesses in their home?
That's your private home.
No, because they're,
Not using it to support the.
that's not
Generating income.
that's not generating income for the poor.
That's, okay, well, that's why I was just asking the question, because you do have that here, and people do have businesses.
And they should be allowed to do that.
There's an opportunity, maybe we should charge you for a license to operate.
Thinking about that. I think
I'd
it should
just
be
like to
registered.
point out, I have never in my life seen a mission statement, which is a vision, that includes these business, the financial end. I mean, I think the vision, I mean, the idea of a mix of assessments and so on should be a strategy. and should not be part of a vision. And like I said, I'm not supposed to be talking here, but
Yeah, I've seen both, I've seen particularly in mission statements for businesses, you'll see a lot of financial stuff in here.
I think
And
what
you
you're,
have to in
what you're
nonprofit
describing
as
is that
well.
first
Right,
word up
but-
there.
And it's a homeowners association too.
That's where I spend all my time, especially in nonprofit. You have to be careful where your income is. Otherwise, you run into problems immediately. So I don't know how you would get by without it.
But I think
Perhaps you've not been looking at
That's a
it as
strategy.
finance.
The purpose of this, you guys have to accept it, I mean, it's not mine. And the members have to accept it. But the purpose of it is to be a big enough umbrella that it allows you flexibility to operate, but it's small enough that it keeps you from going off on tangents which might end up being very expensive or not wise to do. So that, you have to look at that in that kind of context. That's what that's supposed to take.
And it can go forward as many years as you want. There's nothing in here that
Yeah, it-
necessarily needs to
it's not
change
time.
5 years from now, 7 years from now, or 10 years from now. Because that's general enough to include changes as we go forward. And it really is important to remember that we're an HOA, because the state has a lot to say about how we do the rest of these goals, strategies, and objectives. And not only that, you made a good point at the beginning, because I've lived in a large homeowners association in Boise that was within the city limits. The only way we could support ourselves was through assessments. And they were very, very high, triple what we paid here at the very least, for only one piece of property in the city. So the fact that we live here, it's our responsibility, first of all, to support ourselves. And secondly, we can get additional monies to support these very interesting venues that we have. That's a bonus for us. But to expect strangers to totally support us is, like Dan says, it's not realistic. And to expect, history had absolutely nothing to do with why I came here. And I read up on it before we retired here. And it matters to a lot of people, and it's cool being here. And we like to take our friends to show them all these historical things. But to have them bring in thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars for us every year is probably, like Dan said, not realistic. So we have to go with those things that are popular with the most people. Some place to stay and something to do while they're here. And some things, like we're talking about an idea that doesn't necessarily show up in a specific budget, but if you look at the larger revenue generators, RV park, motel, the golf course, and the hunt, because Dickman Hall is basically a break even and the pool loses money. But if you take those 4 big revenue generators and you lump them together into a category, you look at the expenses for all of them and the expenses and the revenue for all of them, then there's not the big huge loss for the golf course, because you're looking at these revenue generators as a category in themselves. We're gonna make over $107,000 in the hunt this year. That covers a lot of losses by the rest of our revenue.
So all the golf courses.
That was,
Yeah, and
that
then
was the
some.
point I was making about
Right.
the golf course being covered by the RV park and the motel. It's covered.
And the thing is that we're lucky. We've got these extra venues to bring us a little bit more cash,
So,
which is why we have to
I
put
mean,
this in here.
what you're doing makes sense, because you're letting the golf course be a loss leader, because it draws people to the RV park, which makes money, it draws people to the motel,
It draws people
to buy property, which makes money. So there's reasons to have things that lose money.
even though it's the ugliest one to get it.
We just need to make sure that you analyze it in such a way that it makes sense to lose that money.
I was not complaining.
And that's where we're trying to head in this financial advisory board, is to get to where we can do the analysis and say, that makes a lot of sense, that doesn't make sense. So anyhow, what I would recommend is you flip that out to the membership. And see what kind of report. Because you want something, you don't want something that's a secret, you want something that everybody buys into, because when you go through this next part, you're gonna point to this and say, that's why I'm doing it here. So if people don't buy into the top level, they're never gonna buy into the bottom level. So, what do you wanna do the rest? I assume nobody wants to keep going today to do the rest. I wouldn't even recommend it, because this is really rich.
We're working with old people.
So we
But
really
I'm
should
getting tired of standing.
Until you solve that, there's no sense in going on anyplace else.
Right. And this is really Richard's stuff, because he's the one that's gotta make it happen and doing it without. But do you wanna go to that next step? Should we keep working? Do you wanna schedule another one of these workshops? The other way to do it is for you as a board to text Richard and say, you and your staff go out and do this and then bring it to me and review it. Or you can participate, however you want to do it.
I'd like to see that with involvement from the committee. As a board member, I'm a little bit vacillating here, but it would be nice to have the committee come, we'll have a work with Richard and say, here's
Yeah,
what
we
we
can do
think.
that. That's typically the way to do it.
On
is
the
you
other
send
hand,
management a way to do it.
I'm glad that we got our input into this part of it. The vision statement to me is, in the end, the most important.
I would agree. And the board owns the vision statement, because that's the direction that you give to management, to say, go make this happen, and come back with your strategies on how you're gonna do it. And then you say, I like that one, I don't like that one.
Exactly right.
And now go back and tweak it and do it that way. So I would recommend that. I would recommend that you guys float this, because this is coming from the board. And then the advisory board will work with Richard and his staff, and we'll do all of this stuff with a target of coming back and reviewing it with you guys sometime.
Go through the whole thing on that like that.
We'll go all the way, drill all the way down. I don't know if we get into the tactic and action, but we'll drill down through the goals, the strategies, and the objectives. You know, and there'll be 15 or 20 of them, something like that, and then come back and present them. And it'll be things like put in an RV park, whatever. And then you guys get to say, yep, that's it, and then you buy off on it.
Okay, I know you're going through all the approvals for the board and everything, but where does the members come into this?
Well,
Is there a way
that's
to
what we're
do that?
talking about. So the first thing that happens is the board will send that out to the membership and
Good,
ask for feedback.
that's what,
There's a
that's.
membership meeting on it.
And that'll happen whenever
Let
it
have
happens.
comments, yes.
And then, we don't wanna start doing this other stuff
Right.
until that is, people agree.
There's a membership meeting, March 31st. You've received an announcement of that in your vote packet. And so members should show up and we should have this available for them.
Yeah, you
And
can
the
send it
finance
out in
committee-
advance if you want, but that's a good,
The finance committee can present it, or we can ask Richard to present it in his state of the fort.
but yeah, this is the statement the board sends out, and this says,
It's a declaration.
so it should be the board saying, this is our vision for the future.
And it should be the members who want to
And then
comment on it.
once that membership meeting's over and people buy into it, or it gets changed because they don't buy into it, then we'll do this stuff.
I think it's kind of neat that what we put on the board as a vision is the way it is today.
Yeah,
In my mind, what I see up there is exactly what we have here,
right. So,
right now.
How do you
And
want it
it's
to be
something to be
different?
proud of. It's something that we've got that is different. We don't lose that.
right.
one other thing about down here with the business, the way we're supposed. I have already talked to several people about grants. Now, do we need to put something in there?
No,
No, that comes, that comes over.
That don't come
That's the how you do it.
Okay,
Strategy is how you do it. The goals are what am I gonna do? The strategy is how am I gonna do it, and that's a how.
okay, I just wanted to mention that, I didn't want that to be shut off.
Right.
More details as you go down there.
All right.
So this is where I'm going. That's how I'm gonna get there. And we'll have Richard and the finance committee put together how I'm gonna get there, once you guys get member approval for this.
We also have a regular business meeting on the 17th too, where we can maybe print this and make it available for people to pick up and read and look at. Same with at the membership meeting, have it available on the
Get
desk
it out.
to
There's
pick
no
it up
reason
and
to
read
hide
it. Right, and welcome to make comments on it.
Maybe a copy of that vision statement with a little brief explanation of what we're doing, that we're gonna continue from that and do this other part, and, just circulate that to members at the 17th meeting and get a feel for their reaction,
I
and
promise,
maybe you can go ahead right
I
then.
promise you I will still be president on the 17th
You know what?
and on the 31st.
It better be.
So yeah, you just tell us when you want us to get started, and we'll get Richard and his staff, and
It'll
we'll
be
go
on the
through another
agenda.
session like this with
It'll
them.
be on the agenda for the 17th,
Okay, so after
and it
that,
will be,
For the
what,
31st.
it will be whatever the board decides for the 31st. But that's where it'll be decided for the
So-
31st.
April 1st, we'll figure that we'll, sometime that first week in April, we'll do something like that.
I'll remind you that's Easter.
And I won't be there. Grandchildren commitments, you gotta go chase Easter eggs.
Are we going to rewrite this as a, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just that, you know,
It's kind of wrong.
arrows and this and that.
Well, of course.
Oh, no, no, yeah.
No, but the point is that,
I'm not gonna hang this anywhere but this room in Richard's office.
yeah, but the point being is that whatever,
We need something.
something
that-
that's gotta be read out at the board meeting
Yes.
And,
as the actual vision.
and have
Yeah,
a
let me-
copy.
I'll clean
Proposed
it up.
actual vision.
So I'll clean it up and get it in something that's nice to look at. And then you can get it.
Yeah, you
I'll get
can
it back to
email
you
it to
and
me
you
and I'll
can
make
fix
sure it gets on the agenda.
Okay.
Or I'm still the president, I said it would be on the agenda.
Yep. I'll make sure you get it, and so does Monique. Cause she's the true scribe here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I hope that was worthwhile.
And thank you, the members who did come. Appreciate it.
With you, Mom, just a minute.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll take them and then I'll just,
We'll get,
yeah, just prepare, I've got the. You ought to keep it.
Mind, rescheduling.
yeah, we have a-